Morgantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday and welcome to our series Witch Life. This month we are focusing on the voice, and today we're talking about presentation. How often have all of us heard that it's not what was said, but it was how it was said? It can make the difference between someone keeping an open mind to your thoughts or rejecting the substance of your ideas on the basis of your manners rather than the ideas themselves. Now, we can go on all day that people should see past the delivery of a message and just focus on the message itself and complain about the general emotional immaturity that society has, and which has led to us all walking on eggshells, and how we're all sick of it and people just need to grow up and get over it. Now, this is all very true, and don't imagine for a moment that I don't share in those sentiments. I do. But obviously there's a distinction that has to be made between being tactful and just pandering to people. And I hope I never pander to anyone. That's definitely not what I'm talking about when we are discussing how our presentation of ideas can affect how they are received. But it is very difficult in our hyper-emotional society to get the balance right. Still, I do think it's a worthy pursuit. There is value in presenting your case in such a way that people are willing to entertain your ideas. And whether someone agrees or disagrees with you isn't really the point of the exercise. It's a question of being taken seriously and being seen as an honest broker. So if you have done your due diligence with brainstorming and creating an outline, then working out how you want to express your ideas becomes relatively straightforward. But in case you find yourself feeling a little bit tense and nervous about that, let's talk about a couple of things you might try. First, write out the first portion of your argument. Just go to town with it. Don't think about it. Don't worry about what anyone else says or what they think or how they would feel. Just write, be ruthlessly honest. Then set that piece of paper aside. Then think about how you would express your opinion about this topic to someone who you know disagrees with you, and write out how you would explain your position to them. Then set that aside. Next, think about how you could teach your ideas to someone who looked up to you as a mentor, because one of these days, even if you are brand new now, you may find somewhere along the line someone is looking up to you in that way, so it's might as well be prepared. So think about it from that way and write that down, set it aside. Now, after you have done that, taken a little break, taken a walk around the block, just kind of cleared your mind, come back, sit down, and put those versions of what you have to say in front of you. Compare and contrast the different versions of this first part of your argument. You will probably notice that there is quite a few differences in your approach. There's going to be some variety there. And depending on the context, none of these approaches may be wrong, although if you do find that some of those approaches are lacking in good manners, you might want to work on those now. That way you are not inflicting that on someone later. But taking into account who your audience is and why they're asking you the question and how the conversation came up, that is a necessary part of this process. You know, how I state my opinion in my videos when I'm just talking to my camera versus how I speak to someone who I disagree with in respectful discussion versus how I explain something to a brand new seeker are three different things. Now, my position doesn't change. My opinions are what they are, unless someone finds a lack of logic or some other issue with my thought process, in which case I go back to the drawing board, just like everybody else. But assuming that that has not happened, I'm still saying and believing the same thing. But how that position is communicated will be affected, and it will always be affected by whom it is I'm addressing and what my goal of that interaction is. Am I simply making my case? Am I in the midst of a debate? Or am I trying to teach? Very different things. Now, what about casual conversation? Because many, if not most of our spiritual discussions, they occur on a more informal basis. Now, this doesn't mean that all of our previous work is all for naught, but it does call for learning how to talk about ideas in a more conversational way. The first and most obvious thing is learning how to introduce an idea without delivering a whole verbal essay all at once. As you might guess, by nature of what I do every single day, this is particularly challenging for me, so I'm working on this right alongside everybody else. But this is also the point in which you will find it extremely useful to have thought your ideas through and to know them forwards and backwards and sideways. If you are sure of the ground on which you stand, you will be able to sum up your idea and its main premise in a few words or even a couple of sentences. But the main thing is you're not doing paragraphs and essays. That's not what you want in a back and forth conversational exchange. Now, this is because it makes room for the person you're talking to actually respond. Perhaps they'll be offering their thoughts or maybe commenting on your ideas. Maybe they will be telling you their own point of view. But at this point, depending on what kind of reaction you get, the topic may actually change and flow on to something else, or you may find yourself getting invited to go into further detail, or they might ask you a question about a related idea, saying, that brought up into my mind, and I got to thinking about this, and it goes from there. So as this goes on, be sure to leave room for the other person to respond and react. And yes, that part is difficult, as has been acknowledged, but practice makes better, so let's practice. But interacting with our spiritual community via social media on platforms, specifically like Discord, they can be enormously helpful because it's set up for more of a back and forth conversation in real time, which is what you want, as opposed to YouTube and Facebook when essentially one person posts what they have to say and then people choose whether or not to react and someone may or may not interact with them. But when you're on Discord or a chat room, everyone is just talking. It's not so standoffish. It's not so much I'm saying something, I go off and do something else, and then I check my notifications to see if anyone reacted and going from there. It's just happening in real time. And in this process, people have an opportunity to get acquainted, and they can build up a sense of mutual goodwill, and that makes exchanging ideas easier. And of course, as you grow more comfortable explaining your ideas to other people, if you do find yourself expressing yourself in a more formal setting, or if more so in this kind of context, if you're making videos saying, this is what I think, this is what I've been learning along my spiritual journey, you'll be more comfortable. You're not going to be as nervous about reactions that you may or may not get. So just food for thought, and I think that sums up what I have to say about this today. Next week we will be talking about overcoming the nerves, so I hope you will be back for that, because as I understand it, I believe that public speaking is still the number one fear that people have. I think back in the 90s, Seinfeld did a bit where, public speaking was the number one fear and death was number two, which he had a lot of things to say about that. But since the fear of public speaking is something that is, I don't want to say universal, but is commonly shared, I think it's worth addressing. And so hopefully I'll have a few helpful hints for you to perhaps reflect upon. But for now, let me know what you think in the comment section below, or come see me on Discord at Blackbird's Brew. There's a link to join in the description box below, and I'd be very happy to chat with you there. But that's all for now. I will see you in the next one. Bye.